Welcome to the Third Row Tesla podcast. My name is Safian Farval, and today we have a very special guest. But before I introduce our special guest, I'm going to go through and introduce our crew. So our regular Third Row Tesla podcast crew. So today we have Omar Kazi, Tesla Truth.
Boom.
And we have Kristen.
Hi.
K10. Thank you. And we got Vincent Yu from Tasmanian.
Hi.
All right, great. And then we got Galileo Russell from Hyperchange.
What up, third row?
And then we got Viv, who's Falcon Heavy.
Hey.
Great. All right, Omar, do you want to introduce our guest?
Please welcome the inventor of the car fart, Elon Musk.
Thank you. Thank you. Please put that on my gravestone.
So yeah, it's kind of crazy that we're actually all here, and thank you so much for doing this.
You're welcome.
We're all Tesla customers, fans, and it's really good that it's finally happening. And I remember that I was looking at your Wikipedia tweet that it's like this bizarre fictionalized version of reality,
Yeah.
and I replied to him like, why don't you come on a podcast and like tell your fictionalized version of reality?
Sure, exactly. Until my fictionalized version.
And you replied, okay, sure. And I was kind of like taken by surprise by that. And, you know, the way you engage and listen to your customers online, it's like, I've never seen anything like that from, you know, a CEO of a public company or
Sure.
any executive. So can you tell us a little bit where that came from, why you communicate directly instead of like having this PR strategy that most companies have?
Sure. Well, I mean, it started out, I actually had one of the very first Twitter accounts, like when it was like less than 10,000 people. And then everyone was tweeting at me like what kind of latte they had at Starbucks. And I'm like, well, this seems like the silliest thing ever. So I deleted my Twitter account, and then someone else took it over and started tweeting in my name. Yeah. And then a couple of friends of mine, Will Lee and Jason Calcanis, they both said, hey, you should really use Twitter to get your message out. And also somebody's tweeting in your name and they're saying crazy things. So I was like, I'll say crazy things in my name.
Did you have to pay them?
No, they I'm not sure who it was, but it was for some reason, I don't know, I got my account back.
Great.
And then I was just, I don't know, to some degree it's like just sort of, I just started tweeting for fun, really. And my early tweets were quite crazy. As I was trying to explain, like the arc of insanity is short, in that it's not very steep, because it started off insane, and so if it's still insane, it's, you know, it hasn't changed that much. Yeah, and I don't know, it seemed kind of fun to, you know, I think I've said this before, it's like, you know, some people use their hair to express myself, I use Twitter.
I love that.
Why do you like Twitter so much? I mean, you could use Instagram
As
for
opposed to
example,
other
but
platforms.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, like I don't trust Facebook, obviously, you know, and then Instagram is fine, but it's I think not exactly my style. It's hard to convey a sort of intellectual arguments on Instagram. It's hard on Twitter too, but it's but you can't, you know, it's so. Instagram is also owned by Facebook, and I was like, you know,
Deleted.
yeah, I just deleted it. It's like I don't really need to just, if I need to say something, I only really need to say it on one platform, pretty much, and so if I'm trying, and I don't want to spend too much time on social media, so it's just like, okay, if people want to know what I'm saying, then they can just sort of go to Twitter. You know, I'll just keep doing that as long as Twitter is good, I suppose, more good than bad. Yeah. Crypto scammers are really...
Oh, I understand.
They've been taking advantage of Vincent recently.
Yeah, I know.
A lot of
Really?
yeah, there's like 10 Vincents out there.
Oh, right. But they totally
Yeah.
copy everything and just like change one
Yeah,
little
they
thing.
use my avatars and then the picture, and then they just post like right below
Yeah.
your tweet. You know?
Yeah.
I was like, wow. And they blocked me too.
We fight them all the time. We're always like reporting them. Like every day we report like 10 people.
Yeah, I have so many exactly conversations with Twitter. Like, come on, can you just like? I think it would take like 3 or 4 customer service people to just look at this. It's crypto scam. Block it. I think it should be easy.
But then, like my wife, Vegan Shelly, I think you liked her tweet the other day. She got banned for like replying to one of your tweets and quoting like the video inside of it, and then she got suspended for like a day or something. I was like, what the heck is going on? Yeah, so it's just weird how the algorithm works.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of manipulation, but going back to the Wikipedia page, it's kind of interesting. Just what a decade you've had. I remember I was reading somebody's article. I think they interviewed you in 2009 or something like that, and they said, if you had met Elon Musk in 2009, right after the recession, they're like struggling with the Roadster. You never would have thought that you are where you are today. You're, launching astronauts into space, this year, servicing the International Space Station. I mean, Tesla with the Model 3, the Model Y, electrification really, without Tesla, it would not be where it is today. You see where the other legacy automakers are, they're not doing great. So, looking at kind of like this, like you've become this legendary figure, and looking at kind of like how people kind of see you, kind of the Ashley Vance biography or Wikipedia page, what is it that really kind of sticks out to you or, makes you laugh like that's just completely off base?
Yeah, well, I think I mentioned that I kept getting referred to as an investor in like a bunch of things, and it's like, but I actually don't invest really except in companies that I help create. So I only have the only publicly traded share that I have at all is Tesla. I have no diversity on publicly traded shares.
Like us.
Yeah, nothing. So, that's quite unusual. So, almost everyone diversifies to some degree. And then the only stock that I have of significance outside of Tesla is SpaceX, which is a private corporation, and then in order to get liquidity, which is mostly to reinvest in SpaceX and Tesla, and occasionally in provide funding for much smaller projects like Neuralink and Boring Company, then I'll actually take out loans against the Tesla and SpaceX stock. So what I actually have is whatever my Tesla and SpaceX stock is, and then there's about $1 billion of debt against that. So, which it's this is sometimes taken to imply that I'm claiming that I have no money, which I'm not claiming. But it's something to make it clear that you'll see some number, some big number in Forbes or something. People will think I have the Tesla and SpaceX stock and I have the cash, and I'm being I'm just sitting on the cash and doing nothing with it and hoarding resources. I'm like, no, it's the only alternative would be to say, okay, let's give the stock to the government or something, and then the government would be running things, and the government just is not good at running things. That's the main thing. I think there's a fundamental sort of question of consumption versus capital allocation. This is probably gonna get me into trouble, but the paradigm of say communism versus capitalism, I think, is fundamentally sort of orthogonal to the reality of actual economics in some ways. So what you actually care about is the responsiveness of the feedback loops to the maximizing the happiness of the population. And if more resources are controlled by entities that have poor response in their feedback loops, so if it's a monopoly corporation or a small oligopoly, or in the limit, I would say a monopolistic corporation in the limit is the government. So, this is not to say people who work at the government are bad. If those same people are taken and put in a better sort of operating system situation, the outcome will be much better. So, it's really just what is the responsiveness of the organization to maximizing the happiness of the people, and so you want to have a competitive situation where it's truly competitive, where companies aren't gaming the system, and then where the rules are set correctly, and then you need to be on the alert for regulatory capture, where the referees are in fact captured by the players, which is, you know, and the players should not control the referees, you know, essentially, which can happen. You know, I think like that happened, for example, with I think the zero emission vehicle mandate in California, where California was like really strict on EVs, and then the car companies managed to sort of, frankly, in my view, trick the regulators into saying, okay, you don't need to be so hardcore about the EVs, and instead you say fuel cells of the future. But fuel cells are, of course, many years away, so forever. So then they let up the rules, and then, you know, GM recalled the EV1 and crushed them in
Exactly.
like a junkyard,
That's
which was
awful.
against the wishes of the owner.
Yeah,
I mean,
they all lined up to buy them, and they wouldn't let them buy them.
well, I mean, Chris Payne did this great documentary on it, and it's like the owners of the EV1, which by the way wasn't actually that great of a car, but they still wanted the electric car so bad that they held a candlelit vigil at the junkyard where cars were crushed, like it was like a prisoner being executed or something like that. That was literally, and like, when is the last time you even heard of that for a product? You know, GM stops the product. I mean, what? I mean, listen, man, they're not doing that for any other GM product. Have you thought about doing the EV2? You know, it's kind of sometimes hard to get through these guys, you know. So, anyway, I think that's a very important thing. So generally, we could see like these oligopolies forming, or duopolies, and then you get effective price fixing, and then they cut back on the R&D budget. Like kind of a silly one, frankly, is like candy. Like there's a candy oligopoly, and it's like, we don't see much innovation in candy.
So you're still working on the candy company.
Joe Candy, is that?
Yeah, the boring candy.
Boring candy.
The boring candy.
It's gonna be boring candy.
I haven't seen a candy yet that's good enough to send out, but and it's, yeah, but I think it's there's like 3 companies or something that control all the candy in the world pretty much, and dog food. Yeah, there's somebody constructed like this. It's this crazy conglomerate, and it's like dog food and baby food and candy, and it's like all, you know.
All the brands.
Yeah,
Hundreds of brands.
yeah. You think you're buying from different companies, but it all funnels up to like 3 companies or
So
something like
gross.
that.
Don't send the rendering food to the candy company.
Yeah.
Yeah, big
so-
candy.
So you want to have like a good competitive forcing function, so that you have to make the product better, or you'll lose. Like if you don't make the product better and improve the product for the end consumer, then that company should have relatively less prosperity compared to a company that makes better products. Now the car industry, you know, is actually pretty competitive, so that's good. And so then the good thing about a competitive industry is then if you make a product that's better, it's going to do better in the marketplace. So this is Gene Wilder's old house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's lovely. Thanks for having us here.
Yeah,
as well.
thank you.
Really special.
Yeah, it's a cool spot, and it's got a solar glass roof.
Yeah.
Do you see that?
Yeah, we didn't notice it, but
Yes.
we checked it out the second time.
Yeah,
Looks
I'm
good.
waiting for my 3, so I'm waiting for version 3. Well, whatever they're going to put on, I don't care.
Give me version 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw it at the store in Torrance. Actually, they've got it
Yeah.
in the stores now. Yeah. Looks really good.
Well, it's actually designed such that you don't notice it. So, because like this, look at this old house. This is like it's an old house. I don't know, probably 50 years old, something like that, and it's quite quirky. So if you put something on that was like didn't blend in, that it would not look right. It would be pretty strident, and this had a black comp shingle roof. So I was like, okay, let's see if we can actually have it weave in and still feel natural, look good, and And I think it's sort of achieved that goal. But yeah, this is a lovely, quirky little house. I'll show you around afterwards. It's got all sorts of weird things. It's exactly
Frank
what.
Lloyd house?
Sorry?
Is it Frank Lloyd?
No, I don't think so. I think it was just built in increments over time by probably several people. But they would have just knocked it down and built a giant house here. So it's like
So glad they didn't.
yeah, it's super cool. So Gene Wilder is one of my favorite actors actually. So he's great. Awesome movies.
So when you come up with a product like the solar glass roof, I think a lot of people misunderstand that like your goal is to bring these crazy technologies to market and really create a change in the world.
Yeah.
And so I think it's fascinating that you do it through companies, and it seems like the fastest way to create that feedback loop and to really like go from inventing something to millions of people using it right away.
Yeah.
So it seems like buying a Tesla is almost like the best thing you could do to help the climate crisis, because you're like turbocharging R&D and products and innovation. I feel like not enough people really understand that.
Yeah, that is. I think there's lots of good things people can do for the climate, but just generally anything that is moving towards sustainable energy, whether it's sustainable energy generation through solar or with an electric vehicle. Actually, just things like better insulation in a house is really effective for energy consumption. But fundamentally, oh geez, Morphin. It's ingratiating. That's Marvin the Martian. I actually got him a little, for Halloween, a little knitted Marvin the Martian cap. So he had the little, the helmet with the, it looked super cute.
You got enough, buddy?
So did you always know, like, business was the way you wanted to kind of attack these problems versus, say, maybe a non-profit or, working as a college professor or something? I don't know.
Well, when I was in high school, I thought I'd most likely be doing physics at a particle accelerator. So that's what I was, physics and computers. I mean, I got distinctions in 2 areas, in physics and computer science, and those were, some of my 2 best subjects. And then I thought, okay, well, I want to figure out what's the nature of the universe, and so go try to working with people, banging particles together, see what happens, and then it sort of things went along, and then the superconducting super collider got canceled in the U.S., and that actually was like, whoa, what if I am working at a collider? It's been all these years, and then the government just cancels it.
Wow.
And then was like, I'm not gonna do that. So it's like, so well, we roll back a little. Like I was trying to figure out when I was a kid, I had like this existential crisis, and I was about 12 years old or something, and I was like, well, what does the world mean? What's it all about? We're living some meaningless existence, and then I made the mistake of reading Nietzsche and Schopenhauer, and I'm like, whoa, don't do that. Not you need to be a little older, I think. No, and actually, lately, these days, I sort of reread it. So I was like, he's not that bad. He's got issues. No question about it. But it's anyway. But then I read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Douglas Adams, which is like quite a good book on philosophy, I think. And I was like, okay, we don't really know what the answer is, obviously. But the universe is the answer. And really, what are the questions we should be asking to better understand the nature of the universe? And so then, to the degree that we expand the scope and scale of consciousness, then we'll better be able to ask the questions and understand why we're here or what it's all about. And so we should sort of take the set of actions that are most likely to result in us understanding what questions to ask about the nature of the universe. So therefore we must propagate human civilization on Earth as far into the future as possible, and become a multi-planet species to, again, extend the scope and scale of consciousness and increase the probable lifespan of consciousness, which is going to be, I think, probably a lot of machine consciousness as well in the future. That's the best we can do, basically, and yeah, that's the best we can do. So, and thinking about the various problems that we're facing, or what would most likely change the future, when they were in college, there were sort of 5 things that I thought would be, I thought these were actually, these I would not regard this as a profound insight, but rather an obvious one. The internet would fundamentally change humanity, because it's like humanity would become more of a superorganism, because the internet is like a nervous system. Now suddenly any part of the human organisms anywhere would have access to all the information.
Amazing.
Instantly.
Neuralink.
Hey, well, I can imagine if you didn't have a nervous system, you wouldn't know what's going on. Your fingers wouldn't know what's going on. Your toes wouldn't know what's going on. You'd have to do it by diffusion. And the way information used to work was really by diffusion. One human would have to call another human, or write them. Yes, like if it was a letter, you would have to write a letter. You'd have to hand that letter to another human. That would be carried through a bunch of things. Find another person would give it to you. Extremely slow diffusion. And if you wanted access to books, if you did not have a library, you don't have it. That's it. Right. So now you have access to all the books instantly, and if you can be in a remote, like, mountaintop jungle location or something, and have access to all of humanity's information if you've got a link to the internet. This is a fundamental, profound change. So that's one thing. I was on the internet early because of the physics community. That was pretty normal, although his interface was almost entirely text and hard to use. But then another one would be obviously making life multiplanetary, making consciousness multiplanetary, changing human genetics, which obviously I'm not doing, by the way. It is a thorny subject, but it is being done with CRISPR and others. It will become normal to I think, to change the human genome.
Like, what's the opportunity? Like, why is that something that's inevitable? Or,
well, I think for sure, as far as say getting rid of diseases or propensity to various diseases, then that's gonna be like the first thing that you'd want to edit out. So it's like if you've got like a situation where you're definitely going to die of some kind of cancer at age 55, you prefer to have that edited out.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think just edit that out. There's the Gattaca sort of extreme thing where it's not merely edited out, but it's like it's edited in for various enhancements and that kind of thing, which probably will come too. But I'm not saying arguing for or against it. I'm just saying this. They're more likely to come than not down the road. Yeah. So then AI, really major one.
So these are all big motivational factors to keep our consciousness going.
Oh, and it's sustainable. Yes. Yeah. So sustainable energy. So sustainable energy actually was something that I thought was important before the environmental implications became as obvious as they are. It's simply because if you mine and burn hydrocarbons, then you're going to run out of them, because it's not like mining sort of say metals, for example. If you we recycle steel and aluminum, and because that's just it's not a change of energy state. Whereas if you take fossil fuels, you're taking some from a high energy state, converting it to a low energy state like CO2, which is extremely stable. So whereas we will never run out of metals, not a problem. We will run out of mined hydrocarbons, and then necessarily if we've got billions, ultimately trillions of tons of hydrocarbons that were buried deep underground in solid, liquid, gas form, whatever, but they're deep underground. You sort of move them from deep underground